Good morning, all of you. Let's begin our session. So, this is our Docker host. We have to pull the image. If we don't pull the image, that is also fine. The Docker run command will also perform the pulling activity if the particular image is not found locally. From that, container will be created. Now, let's try to understand the environment variable, how to pass them. For that, let's create MySQL database. Okay, so we know that Docker run command is to run the container from the image. This is the image we are using here. Then I want to name the container as MyDB. I want to run the container in detached mode. Then how to pass the environment variable? For that, we have option E. And this is the environment variable, and this is the value for that. Okay, so now this container expects the application, the MySQL database expects this environment variable. This is, and I'm passing value to that. The value is Laxman. So now let's run this command. And we are using which Docker image? We are using MySQL Docker image, that to tag 5. Okay, with the tag 5. If you don't mention this tag here, by default, it will be pulling the MySQL latest. Okay, so I have told you that many times. Now let's execute this command here. This is our Docker host machine. The image is not found locally, so that image is being pulled from the Docker host, and the images will be pulled as layers. Finally, the image will be pulled from that container will be running. That container will be named as MyDB. The container will be running in detached mode, and the password for that MySQL database will be now Laxman. So now this is. Now let's see. The container is running. Yes. Now let's see whether any container is in existed state. No, there is no container that is in exist state. We have only a single container. That container is running and it is up 13 seconds ago. Got it? So now let's enter into the database terminal, the MySQL container terminal. For that, we have command. Which command? Docker exec IT. And what's the database name? MyDB. The container name is a MyDB. Is bash here. Okay, what it is saying? Exec will enable to start container process. Exec executable file not found in this path. Okay, so this bash terminal is not found. Bash binary is not found. So now let's try to use. I think I'm not using the right command. We should not use a double hyphen. Should use bash. In Kubernetes, we will use this. So I'm a little bit confused from here to there. We are into the container. We are into the virtual machine where the database is running. That virtual machine is now here. What? Container. So now let's try to connect it to the database. So now how to connect it to the database? So if you have the database knowledge, then so by default, this database will be existing in that. So I want to log into that database. So this is by default, the username is root. How do we know that? If you are from database background, you should be knowing that. Otherwise, you can go to the MySQL documentation. There it will be mentioned. So now I'm trying to -u stands for username. That is root, and password I will provide now. Okay, what's the password that we have passed? Laxman is the password. I have typed that. That is a secret, so that won't be visible on this console. So we are into MySQL database. Now we can execute MySQL commands, which is beyond our scope now. So just I'm executing one command. I want to see the list of databases in that MySQL database. So these are the databases. So this is a MySQL database. Okay, this is under database. These are another database. Okay, how to switch to a different database? For that, we have database commands. Use the DB name. Okay, we are already into MySQL database only. We want to switch to any database, we have to use the database changed. Okay, so like that, we can execute the commands. Then if we want to exit from the database, we have this command. Then we are into the container terminal. We want to exit from the container terminal, then we can use exit, or we can use control PQ simultaneously. Okay, if I use that, if I see, so our container is running, but we exited from the container terminal. Then now let's see another thing. So that is fine. Till now, what we are doing is we are creating the containers independently. Okay, so now let's say this is a WordPress container where WordPress application will be running, and you must be knowing that WordPress requires a database, okay, to store its data. So now we know how to create the database. Okay, with that command we can create the MySQL database, and we are creating the MySQL database here. Okay, and this container is WordPress container, and this is MySQL container. Okay, now let's do one thing. Now let's try to uh, create those things. Anyway, so once we create them, what will happen? For every container, a private IP address will be allocated. For this WordPress also, one private IP address will be allocated. For MySQL container also, one private IP address will be allocated. But how to establish connection between these two containers? Okay, so in the world of containers, there is no significance to the IP addresses of the containers, whether it can be Docker, whether it can be Kubernetes, everywhere there is no significance to the IP address. The IP address will keep on change based on the scaling. For example, if we are scaling out the containers, new containers will be created, and for every container, an IP address will be allocated. Okay, can we rely on the IP address if that is the situation? No, we cannot. We should have some reliable host name or the reliable address so that this WordPress container will connect to MySQL database. So that kind of communication can be established using network object. What we do is we will create a network object, and we will connect this container to this network and this container to the same network. Then they belong to the same network, so they can communicate directly with their host names, that is container names, which I will teach you in few minutes. So before that, we have a legacy command which Docker is not recommending us to use. So, but still, let's understand that. That is nothing but what? A link command. Okay, so link command. So if we are running the containers independently, there is no use. Let's say we have 220 microservices or 220 containers. The containers will be depending on one another. They are interdependent. One container should talk to another container. Let's say we have the WordPress container and it needs database. If they are independent, if they are not able to ping each other, what is the use? Okay, so there should be a mechanism for communication between the two containers. So that can be achieved through link command or the link option in the Docker command, and we have the network object. So using these two, and in Docker Compose, where we will write the properties of various containers to create multi-container architecture. So in all those cases, we have the network object and we have the link option. Okay, and the network object is the advanced version to the link. So nowadays we should not use the link, but we have to use network, but let's understand link option as well. So now what I will do is, first, let's see how the containers will be communicating. Okay, so now what I will do is, I will create a busybox container. Okay, so what is busybox container? Busybox Docker image. So busybox command tiny versions of many common Unix utilities into a single small executable. Okay, so you can think busybox as a lightweight Linux Docker image. Okay, as simple as that, with having basic utilities of the Unix operating system. Now what I will do is, I will write, I will create busybox1 container with the busybox image. And because this is operating system containers, so as soon as the container is started, the container will be exited because there is no application is running inside that. So I want to interact with the container as soon as it is started. So I'm using -it here, stands for interactive mode. So now let's run that container. So I said that if you are not mentioning any tag, by default, it will be pulling the latest thing. So now we are into the container terminal. Okay. So this is now how to come out of this container without exiting the container, how to come out of this terminal. I said for operating system containers, we have to use Control PQ simultaneously if you don't want to stop the container, but if you want to exit from the terminal. So I have applied Control PQ simultaneously. With that, we exited from the container terminal, but still container will be running without any issues. It is up 38 seconds ago, right? So now what I will do is, I will create another container called busybox2. Okay, so now let's use the same thing here. I'm just deviating from this command. I will explain this in a moment. Now let's run another busybox container. Now let's name that as busybox2. And by this time, you should understand that we can use the same image to create any number of containers, right? That is the thing. So now let's interact with this. Now we are into the busybox2. This is busybox2. Now let's exit from this as well. Control PQ. Okay, Docker PS. See, busybox 1 and 2 are running. Now let's inspect them. To inspect, see here we got the IP address of this. Okay, so what is the IP address of the busybox 1? So this is the public IP address of private IP address of that. So now what I will do is, I just want to open Notepad. I have opened the Notepad. Now what I will do is, I will copy the IP address of this. Okay, so the container name is busybox1. Its IP address is this one. Now let's inspect busybox2. Okay, so this is the IP address of the busybox2. Busybox. So this is the IP address. Okay, so now what I will do is, I will enter again into busybox2. So bash is not found. So let's use sh. Okay. So busybox, in busybox we don't have bash terminal. We have only sh, a shell, secure, a shell. So now what I will do is I want to check whether there is a connection between these two containers. Okay, how to check that? We have the ping utility. So now we are into this container and I want to ping busybox1. How can I ping? Because we have the IP address of the busybox1. This is right. So now let's try to ping busybox1. Before that, we have to ensure ping is installed or not. So what it is saying, ping is already installed. So this particular busybox2 is now able to ping this busybox1. Okay, we have seen that now. And if you go inside this busybox1 and if you ping busybox2 with the IP address of the busybox2, it will be pingable. The ping will work. Now, what I want to do is I said that these IP addresses are not reliable. Why? Because let's say if we have 10 containers, we will be having scaling concept. We will see that in the Kubernetes. If you scale the containers, if the single application is running in the multiple containers, how can we use the IP address? If we have the 10 instances, we have to use the 10 IP addresses, which is not at all ideal solution. There is no practical approach to use them also. We should have a service name or the host name or the address. Okay, so now in Docker, the container name will act as the host name. Okay, so if that is the case, we are into the busybox2. Let's ping busybox1 with its what is this screen recorder? I have installed for some other purpose. It is doing its task, so that's why it is up. Yesterday we have a long deployment call, so the Zoom could not able to. It was about 13 hours call from morning to night. We are in the call. That time, let's quit this. That's fine. Then what I will do is see what it is saying. When I pinged using its IP address, we are able to successfully ping. That means the busybox2 is able to ping the busybox1 with the IP address. But when we use ping and when we want to ping with the host name of the container, host name of the container is nothing but the container name itself. What it is saying, bad address. This busybox1 address is not being recognized by the busybox2. But what I want to do is I want to make this recognized by the busybox2 container. For that, we have two options. One is a link, and the one is network object. Okay, now let's see link. Control PQ. Let's use Control PQ simultaneously so that I will be exiting from the container terminal. Now what I will do is I will remove all the container. Docker rm this is the command to remove all the containers. Docker psaq remove all the containers that they are running at the stop. If the containers are running, the containers will be stopped first and they will be removed. We won't be having any containers. Now what I will do is I will create the container one again. Okay, container one again, busybox1 again. Now let's exit from this. Now let's create busybox2. Okay. Now also exit from this control PQ. Sorry, I should not create this busybox2 like this. Now I'm removing the busybox2 containers forcibly. Now I have only busybox1. Now what I will do is I want to run busybox2, but this time I want to link this busybox2 with busybox1. For that, we have an option called link. I want to link this busybox2 container with which container? Busybox1 container. This is how. And if we want to give some alias name to this link, then we can use that alias name. Let's say busybox1 alias. Okay, we can use this or you may not be using that. That's up to you. So to link this busybox2 with the busybox1, we have link option. So now let's execute this. Now we are into busybox2 terminal. Now let's ping busybox1 with its container name. See what is happening? Earlier it said that what bad address. Now it is able to recognize the busybox1 with its host name. Why? Because we have established a link. This is. Now let's exit from this. Control PQ. Control PQ. We have to use Docker PS. Okay, so that link we have understood now. Now what I will do is I will go inside the busybox1. Now let's ping busybox2. What happened? So it is not found because we have linked busybox2 with the busybox1. In that case, busybox2 can communicate with the busybox1 with its host name, but not the other way around. Okay. So now what I will do is, but we have the network object, which is advanced version. Using that, we can ping from one to another. Okay, we will understand that. So now let's remove that. Remove all the containers.
Sir, can we link multiple containers?
Yes, we will link that. Okay, we will also see that.
Yes.
Okay, we have that. So now what I will do is, now let's create some development environment. That's a fake environment only. We won't be creating this environment using the containers in the real time. So, but let's to make you understand about this link and how to establish connection between multiple containers. So I have created this. So what we are doing is start MySQL as a container and link it with the WordPress container. Okay, so that means what we will do is we will create the MySQL database. That database should be there. For example, if we want to run WordPress container, so the WordPress expects from us a database. We have to provide the details in that. Okay, so for that, what we do is we will create the database in the first instance itself. So how to create the database? Docker run, the name of the container, detached mode. We are passing the environment variable and its value. Then this is the MySQL image that I want to choose.
Sir, why are we passing this environment variable?
For example, which background you are from? Are you a developer or what?
I am from testing background.
Okay, so if they are writing some application source code, so some environment variables they will be writing. So we can dynamically provide them. Okay, so this environment will now for this environment variable, so this value will be assigned.
Okay, inside that container, this environment variable will be.
Yeah, inside the container application will be there, right?
Yes.
So to that application, this value will be assigned for that particular variable.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now let's run this. Before that, I want to ensure that all the containers were stopped, because again, I have chosen only small instance. I forgot that I have to uh, choose some bigger instance, EC2 instance, but I forgot to do that. So now what I will do is I will run the MySQL database. Okay, so Docker PS, so MySQL database is running. Imagine this situation without containers. How to install MySQL database? For that, we should have the Linux machine. In that, we have to execute multiple commands to get this MySQL database. But using containers, see how quickly we are able to launch the MySQL database. That is the beauty of the containers, right? Now, what I will do is I will create WordPress container and I am naming that container as my site. You can name anything, okay? Or you can name this as front end or my WordPress or WordPress, anything you can give. I'm just giving the my site as the container name for WordPress container. So this is the container name. This is the container image name. I want to run this in detached mode. I want to perform port mapping because this is the front end. I should be able to access this from outside of the Docker host. For that, what we are doing? We are doing manual port mapping. Small p stands for manual port mapping, and this is the my WordPress container. This is the default container for WordPress, and this is the Docker host container. Then I'm linking this with the MyDB. Okay, I'm linking with the MyDB, and this is some alias name. It is up to you to give this or not. Okay, so this link I'm naming it as MyDB. Now let's run this WordPress. Because the WordPress image is not found locally, it is being pulled from the Docker host. Based on the application that is there in the Docker image, the image size will vary. Now Docker PS. So now the my site container is running. Now it can ping MyDB. My site can ping MyDB. Why? Because we have established a link. So that's why if this is MySQL, sorry, if this is MySQL, let's say this is MySQL and this is WordPress, then WordPress can ping this MyDB because we have established a link. Now let's check the same thing now. Docker exec IT. I'm just confirming whether the link is working properly or not. Exec IT into which container? My site. You have to provide the shell at the end. Okay, and let's control PQ. I want to show you bash here also, so that see in this bash and shell both are there in this my site, that WordPress container which I named as my site, and we are directly landed into particular working directory of that. Okay, so now what I will do is I will try to ping MyDB. What is MyDB? MyDB is nothing but the container name of the MySQL container. Okay, and this will act as the host name. Now let's ping the MyDB. What it is saying, ping command is not found. For that, let's install ping in this apt update. I'm updating the package repository. Then let's install ping apt install iputils -ping. Fine, I am approving that. So this same has been given in our documentation as well. Somewhere how to install ping is given already in the documentation. Okay. Now the ping is installed. Now let's ping MyDB. See, it is pingable. You have to observe one thing, that even if you don't establish a link manually, by default, every container will be talking to another container with their IP addresses. For that, you don't need to do anything. By default, all the containers in the same Docker host will be able to communicate with each other with their private IP addresses. But if we want to make them addressable by their host name, we have to establish link. So we have established a link uh, between MySQL and the my site. Now the my site can communicate with the MyDB. So that's what I'm confirming here. The ping is working now. Now let's use control PQ. Exit also we can use, but I'm habituated to control P only. Control PQ. The containers are running now. We have performed port mapping for WordPress. Now I should be able to access WordPress on port 5050. What's the IP address of my machine? This is what is this doodle? What is special today? Gerald Jerry's 80 seconds birthday. Okay, that's fine. 5050. Is it 5050? Yeah. So the WordPress got started. Now let's continue.
Sir, WordPress is running on which server?
WordPress is running in a container, right? So this is the container in my site.
For WordPress running, it's need a server, no?
So that server is by default, it is installed in that WordPress. WordPress has been. Now let's do that. Now let's go to the logs. I don't know whether it is Apache server, right? Apache PHP.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
Right? But that is already inbuilt with the Docker image. Okay, that is the beauty. That's not. So the dependency for the WordPress is the application that is WordPress and its dependencies are packed together in a file. That file is called Docker image. Okay, so from that Docker image, we are running the containers. Now the WordPress is running. What it is saying, welcome to WordPress. Before getting started, please ensure that you have the database and the database details. Okay, and I know that I have already the database, so I don't need to worry. Let's go. So what is the database name? So we know that if you are using MySQL, the database default database name is MySQL, username is root, and the password we have provided through the environment variables. The password is Laxman here. Let's use Laxman there. And what is the database host? The database host is nothing but the container name of the database. What is it? MyDB. MyDB is the container name of the MySQL database. So now let's keep this table prefix default. Let's submit. See, all right, Spark, you have made it through this part of the installation. WordPress can now communicate with your database. If you are ready to go, now it's time to go. Okay, but that's beyond our scope. This is how we will establish a link between them. Now, what I will do is I will remove all these containers, MyDB and my site. What I will do is I will run the database. I will run the database and I will run the WordPress. Okay, but this time I don't want to establish the link. Okay, again we are using 5050 port. See, WordPress is run. Now let's continue. Okay, so database name and host name, these things are required. Let's go. Database name is what? MyDB. Root. Password is Laxman. Database host. Now let's give MyDB now and see what we have. See, error establishing a database connection because that MyDB is not being recognized by the WordPress because we did not establish the connection using the link. So that's why the connection is being failed, right? So that is now. Now let's create some LAMP architecture. You can create. So here our whole point is to understand the linking multiple container. See, so what we are doing
Laxman,
here,
I
we
have
are
a question here. Can I ask?
you can ask.
So in the normal scenario, I mean, if you are not going for the containers, if you want to use the WordPress, we need to provide some database details, which the database should be available on the same system. If you are not using the containers, so in
Yes,
that
it may
case,
not be available in the same system, right? It can be there in any way, but that details we should able to give to the WordPress and that IP address or the particular service name should be recognized by this particular WordPress.
okay. So in the normal scenario, if you are not going to the containers, we need to get install the SQL server, the
Yeah.
MySQL server manually. Since we are using the containers which is already there, directly we are using without installing anything. Is that the scenario? And
Yes, yes.
yeah, okay.
That is so. Let me go back to the basics again. So now, what is, for example, how to install MySQL database? Let me go there. Installing MySQL database on Linux. Okay, let's take Ubuntu. Let's go to some private one. So these commands we have to use. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know what are the dependencies for this MySQL database again. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, those rebuilds will be, we will be doing all these things. Okay.
Yeah.
But using container, what we are doing, we are not doing this. If you are using MySQL image, this MySQL image is nothing but the MySQL application plus its dependencies. Okay, its dependencies, whatever it may be. Okay, if it is Jenkins, it is Jenkins application packed together with its dependencies. What are dependencies for Jenkins? One of the main dependencies is Java. Java should be installed.
Yes.
So if we want to run Jenkins, if we want to install Jenkins in our bare metal machine, this Ubuntu, we have to install first Java and other dependencies that are required for the Jenkins. Then we will install the Jenkins. But coming to Docker image, these dependencies along with the application will be packed in that image. Okay. And that we are directly executing. Okay, that's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye. Thank you. Not bye. Okay, so now let's how to create this LAMP architecture. Usually we don't use this like this. Docker run, and we are running the MySQL database. This we know already. Now what I will do is we are starting Tomcat server. The Tom is the image. So Docker run, I'm naming the Tomcat server as Apache. I want to run this in detached mode. We are performing port mapping, and the default port of the Tomcat is 8080. And I'm linking this Tomcat with the MyDB. And for the link, I'm giving some alias name. Don't be confused about that. Okay, the link, the other name of this link is I'm giving as MySQL. This is how we will specify the alias name using colon. Okay, anyway, this link we won't be using because that is already deprecated in the sense the Docker is not recommending that to be used. We have the advanced version that is network object. We will understand that. So this, now the Tomcat will able to communicate with the MySQL database. The database name is MyDB here, not the database name, the host name of the database. Now what we are doing, we are creating another server called PHP container. Docker run, and the name of that is PHP. Then this is the Docker image name. This time I want to link this PHP with both Apache. Okay, so what is Apache? This is the container Apache, and I also link this with MyADV. This is how we will specify. So if we want to link one container with the multiple containers, we have to use multiple link options, as simple as that. Okay, so we will see one scenario. So this we can practice. So now let's establish a CI/CD environment. CI/CD means the art of the CI/CD will be Jenkins Automate server. Let's link it with two Tomcat server. This is not thing. So because they are running, we have to use force. Now let's run Jenkins. Okay, if this image is already there, then it won't take much time. Within seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, the Jenkins server will be up. Okay, but in order to install this Linux, imagine a situation. And many times that Jenkins commands will be failing. Now the Jenkins will be accessible over 7070. Now what we are doing is we are running another container called Tomcat server, and we are naming that as QA server, detached mode, performing port mapping, linking with the dev server, and the link we are giving at the Jenkins. You can ignore this also if you want. No worries. This is QA server is being downloaded and it will be running on port 8080, and we are running another server called prod server, the Tomcat server itself we are running. We are naming that as prod server. We are also linking this with the same, that is Jenkins. Jenkins's host name is what? Dev server. This is what we have given here. Okay. So now how quickly the Tomcat will be there? See, because the image is already existing in our machine, it took no time. So this Jenkins will be running on port, how much? 7070. And one Tomcat server will be running on port 9090 and one on 8080. Wait, page to run was the Jenkins port to 7070, right? It's wait to run. And another one is one clear server is running on 9090, one on 8080. How quickly we are able to achieve this? This is one server, this is our server. We can go to that Jenkins, which we have seen earlier. Otherwise, also in the logs itself, those will be that password will be generated. Docker logs dev server in the Jenkins container name. So in the logs, it will be given. See, this is the password. But we don't want to do that. We can go to that particular path of the Jenkins. This path, you can count it, and this will be visible there. Okay, let's copy that and paste it here. Jenkins will be running. So our whole point is here how to link that with the other containers. So if you go to QA server or prod server, let's execute into prod server. And if you ping dev server, that is the Jenkins name, apt It install IP utils -ping IP what? See, the dev server is pingable from this prod server because we have used link. So we can create a testing environment. So that's what we are doing is we are using the link here. So to just to know that. So this is hub, Selenium hub. We are performing port mapping here. And this is Chrome browser. We are using the link. And this is the Selenium Chrome image. Then we are also linking this Selenium Node Firefox image with that. So our whole plan is to understand the link. Okay, this is that you can practice. So if you want to use the graphical user interface, so we have to install VMC viewer and all those things, which is not at all required here. Now, so all these days, what we are doing is till today, we want to run any containers. We are just typing the commands. We are doing the things imperatively. But what if we want to run 20 containers? Definitely, we have to run 20 commands, and there is no doubt that one or the other command will fail at one or the other times due to missing some commands. We will be missing some options in the commands, and one time you may be missing a link, one time you may be missing the port mapping, or you may be using some mistake a port. So all those things we will be doing that, right? Okay. So, but what if we want to get the same state tomorrow? We have to run again 20 commands if something is breaking. If something is broken already, we have to run all those 20 commands, and there is no guarantee that you will be getting the same environment as that of the yesterday's environment. To overcome that, we have a concept called Docker Compose. Using Docker Compose, we will write the desired state or the container properties and how they should be communicated and what ports they have to be mapped to the Docker host and volumes and all those things we will be writing in the YAML file. So that is called as what? Docker Compose. We will see that. So in that we will be using volumes, so secrets, this network object, this images and everything. We will be writing everything in a YAML file. So that we will understand after understanding the Docker volumes and the networks. Okay. No, so these things we, for example, we are creating WordPress and the MySQL database. For that, we have to run 2 to 3 commands. Okay, if it is a CSCD environment, we have to use just 3 to 5 commands we have to run. So those things we are doing. Tomorrow, if you want to get the same thing, if you deleted the container today, you have to run those commands again, and there is no guarantee that you will be getting the same thing again tomorrow. So in order to overcome all the problems, and these commands can't be version controlled. We can't push these commands to the repositories, right? So we should have some declarative approach using files. So that can be achieved using Docker Compose. Docker Compose files will be written in the YAML files. So we will understand that later. So before understanding that, we have to understand few more concepts, that is Docker volumes. Okay. So now let's SAQ. We are removing all the containers. So there are no containers running a stop, but still images will be there. Now what I will do is, let's keep images, no worries. Now, this is our Docker host machine, which is Ubuntu machine. we are running the container here. Wait, friends. Okay, so this is the Docker host. We are running the container here. Let's say, for example, this is the MySQL database container. Fine. Now, containers are ephemeral, whether it is Docker, whether it is Kubernetes. In Kubernetes also, same Docker host machines will be there. Multiple Docker host machines will be there. And Kubernetes, we will scale up and we will scale down the containers based on the load. And we will automate the process using the horizontal pod auto scaler based on the load. Okay, and that we will measure by using CPU and memory metrics. Based on the load, the containers will be scaled up and scaled down. And what will happen to the data that is processed or that is generated by the particular container? Okay, so for example, if this is the MySQL database, if some databases and the tables are created in that particular container, okay, what if the container is terminated due to some reason? The data that is generated by this container will also be lost. Once the container is terminated or deleted, the data will be lost. Imagine if it is a banking application which is running in the container, and we are telling that containers are ephemeral, that means they are temporary. The containers are temporary, that means there is a possibility of containers are being terminated and new containers will be created for the same application. The data will also be lost when the containers are terminated. And when the new containers are coming, that new containers won't be able to get access to the original data because the data is no longer existing. So how to overcome that problem? For that, we have the concept called volumes. Volumes means what we do is, okay, we will create a volume on the Docker host. Volume is nothing but some directory. And we will mount the container directory. We will be having multiple directories in the containers, right? So where the data of the MySQL database will be stored. For example, if it is a MySQL database, where like MySQL, this is the working directory. Once we create the tables or databases, so all the things will be stored in this particular directory of the MySQL container. So what we will do is we will mount this container path to some volume. So this means what will happen is if you create some file in this path, file1.txt, that file will be also copied here, right? So now even if the container is terminated, okay, still our files are saved. Now we can create new container and we can mount the same file to the new container. This is the new container. So because that file is there here and we are mounting that particular volume to the container, so these files will be copied to the container again. This is the new container. Okay, so this concept is called as what? Docker volumes. We will see that thoroughly tomorrow. Okay, that's it for today, friends. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. And one thing is that tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, that is Sunday and Saturday, we won't be having any class this week. For every week we will be having classes from Monday to Saturday, but today we don't have class because the institute will be following up with you to get the payments done. And on Monday, so those people who have paid, they will be getting the new link and they will be eligible for the further classes. And the Telegram group will be created for us, and Google Drive will be shared with you. In that, both the recordings and the class material will be provided. So all the materials till date I will be uploading on Monday, friends. That's it for today. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Thank you.
So the next class is on Monday, right? So we don't.
Yes, we don't have class tomorrow. But every Saturday we will be having the class also. But tomorrow Saturday we won't be having.
Okay.
Thank you, friends. So how is the classes? Do I need to improve anything? Am I a little bit fast or a little bit slow, or it is fine? Whether you are able to understand? Yes, Paramali is saying it's good. Thank you. Yeah.
Sir, I have one question. Sir, when you said that within Docker, all the containers are connected. So why are we linking, sir? The SQL.
Containers are by default connected, but only with their IP addresses, but not with their host name. They can't discover one another with their host names.
Okay.
But so I said that IP address will be not reliable because multiple containers will be there, and for multiple containers, for example, if we have the single application and if we want to have multiple replicas for the single application for high availability, so all the containers will be having their own IP addresses. We can't rely on them, right? So we should have the proper host name where it will route the traffic to any of the container. Okay, that you will understand clearly in Kubernetes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, friends. Bye. Any other person is having any doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can wind up this session. Bye, friends. And this Docker and Kubernetes are very, very important for DevOps and for both DevOps engineers and cloud engineers, and for developers, for testing people also this is important. Okay. Why for testing also this is important? So tomorrow if something is breaking, they have to understand this terminology and all things, right? So this is very important for them as well. For example, if a performance tester is there, if he's performing performance testing, so you should be able to understand how many pods are there, how much CPU and memory consumption is there when they're increasing the load. So for them also, it is very helpful. So today, nowadays, performance testers are asked to do the cloud certifications and all. Okay. Yes, Parimal, we will be understanding the resources, requests, and limits in Kubernetes. Okay, friends, bye.